Okay, Taylor, let's talk about this. Taylor said, why are you unaccepting of an EDNOS diagnosis? Why the obsession with anorexia nervosa even when the diagnosis doesn't apply? I realize I keep repeating, but the time difference means I miss the lives. That's okay. I guess I've never thought of it like I'm trying to stay away from being qualified as EDNOS. That's just how I identify my eating disorder. That's how I feel I'm going through. And honestly, it's getting to the point now where it's like, I feel like we need to just start talking more about how it doesn't matter where you're put. Like, why are we put in different compartments when we're all struggling with the same thing? For me, I can literally go through every single eating disorder in one day. So which one am I? Okay, so then I'm EDNOS with this and this and this, or I'm bulimic with, or anorexic with a binge purge subtype or whatever. Why can't we just say, this is I have an eating disorder and I'm trying to learn how to eat better, and I don't know how to do that. But no, it's not like I'm like being scared of it or anything. I honestly believe that that's how I feel. That's what I feel I struggle with. So in the times that I do feel that way, that's how I felt I struggled with. That's what I try to portray in that video. That's just how I feel, and I know that that's wrong. I know that the books and the doctors tell you different, but I've got 28 years of experience with eating disorders, and I've seen dozens and dozens of doctors in my life, and every single one of them has told me that nothing's wrong with me, nothing, unless it's just bulimia. Like, you're not anorexic until you're 80 pounds. Okay, well, what are you on the way down? And that's so frustrating to me. Like, I just want to feel how I feel. Maybe I shouldn't even be labeling myself anymore at all. I don't know, but yeah, I just don't feel I'm really getting like, it's really getting hard for me to keep focusing on a label that someone else gives me. And so I give myself the one that I feel is accurate towards me. One eating disorder shouldn't be treated any less or more than another. That's a good point. Also, because it's like, doctors also don't take you seriously if you don't have a label, which is so stupid. So stupid. If I were to call a doctor, and I've done this before, or if I were to talk to a doctor and say, hey, I starve myself all day and then I binge and purge at night, they would be like, you're fine because your BMI is healthy, you're actually overweight and you need to lose a little bit of weight. That's what they tell me. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not true at all. So just because my BMI, and also when it comes to like the whole BMI thing and all that, like that doesn't make sense to me because my brother-in-law is a doctor and my sister, his wife, has told me straight up that the BMI stuff is bullcrap because you can be 80 pounds and be the healthiest eating, exercising person and treat your body the absolute best that you can, or you can be 80 pounds and starving yourself to death. You can be 200 pounds and being healthy and exercising and eating healthy and doing everything healthy for your body, and then you can be 200 pounds and overeating and binging, purging, or whatever. Like, BMI, just because it's your weight and your height, does not qualify as what's healthy and what's not. And so I'm just kind of like tired of it all. So I'm not mad at you, by the way. I'm glad you brought this up. I'm just like mad about the situation. Like, why can't we just like stop? So maybe I need to work on that. Should I stop like labeling myself? I don't know. Atypical anorexia is a thing. Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me it makes me cringe, you know? Yes, I agree you have an eating disorder and need treatment regardless, but when you go around saying that you have one specific diagnosis when you don't, and spreading misinformation despite being an education-based channel. It's the misinformation, the taking away from those who actually with anorexia nervosa, and also the self-diagnosis. That's the issue. Well, that's kind of, you're telling me what books and doctors tell me. I'm telling you what experience tells me. And I've never once claimed that I was diagnosed with anorexia, that I was called. No doctor has ever said you're an overweight anorexic. This is something that I identify as or did in the past. Yeah, I would love to know what misinformation you think I'm spreading, because all I've ever talked about is myself and what I know from my experience as well. I've never claimed to be a doctor. I've never claimed to be a therapist or anything, so. And honestly, like, I know you're probably not trying to hurt me, but like, it does hurt when I hear someone say something like that. Like, well, how, like, it's the way you're coming off is like, hey, you have no right to claim that you're anorexic, because what about those who really are anorexic? You're basically talking to me the same way that the doctors do, and that's not fair. So just because I'm starving myself and I was 230 pounds and started starving myself down to a healthy weight, I'm not going to say what it is, I know that's what I'm saying. You did self-diagnose, and the misinfo part is saying you can be overweight but anorexic. Well, I believe you can be, though. And I've always claimed that that was my opinion and not doctors. So people don't have to believe me. That's up to them if they want to believe me. But I get what you're saying. Like, you're totally right that I come on here and I say, I starve myself, I'm anorexic, and then I binge and purge sometimes with it. Or I did back in that time. So like, I get that you're saying that, like, it's not up to me to like spread and say that's everybody's diagnosis or whatever. I'm just giving you my experience, and then I will have thousands of people say that they agree with me and that's how they feel, and they've never felt like they've been taken seriously, because we're not taken seriously. Yeah, but that's a cop out. It's like telling people you can be bulimic, but not once ever binge or purge or to compensate. What are you talking? Okay, being anorexic is starving yourself. Okay, there was a time in high school where I didn't binge and purge. All I did was starve myself, and I started at 230 pounds, and I'll just say it, I got down to 140 pounds, and I did not binge and purge at all, but I was overweight until I got down to about 150. That's when the doctor told me, you're at a healthy weight, you're good. So what was I between the 230 and the 150, where I was starving myself and I was not binging and purging, I wasn't doing anything else but starving? Like, you're telling me that's not anorexic? I didn't want to say my lowest weight before, and I'm sorry I did. No, because I don't want to trigger anybody, because it's hard for me because I have a lot of friends who will come to me and they'll be like, even when I was 140 pounds, they would come to me and they would be like, oh, I just weighed in at 140 pounds. I'm huge. I'm disgusting. I'm a cow. So like, I never want to say, like, I shouldn't have even said my highest weight, because I don't want anybody who is 230 pounds to feel like that's fat or bad, or you're ugly, or you should be ashamed and you should starve yourself like I did. Like, I don't want people to think that. So I honestly should not have brought up my weight, and I'm very sorry about that. I was just trying to like, it's just that doctors tell you that you're not considered anorexic unless you're underweight, but the disorder is still anorexia nervosa if you have all the symptoms and signs and characteristics. I completely agree. And that's how I feel. And I get it. Like, Taylor, seriously, I totally get what you're saying. Like, I get that that's not in the books. That's not what it technically, a lot of people think it technically is. But it is. They just haven't recognized it yet. Because again, I was overweight from 230 to 150. And I didn't have any subtypes of binging and purging, but I was overweight and anorexic for all of that time. Someone look it up. I'm going to look it up. What is the definition of anorexia nervosa? Because maybe I'm wrong.
Anorexia means a lack or loss of appetite for food as a medical condition.
A lack or loss of appetite for food as a medical condition, an emotional disorder characterized by an obsessive desire to lose weight by refusing to eat. What did you just say, Taylor? I wanted to get your feedback. Anorexia is more than the starving. Starvation is part of EDNOS, and it is even a compensatory, sorry, I'm really stupid, I don't know how to say that word, compensatory component of bulimia. Well, yeah, well, I think that's what we're all saying, right? I don't know. Isn't that what we're all saying? I don't know. I mean, look at this. This is the definition. Like, a lack or loss of appetite for food as a medical condition, an emotional disorder characterized by an obsessive desire to lose weight by refusing to eat. Let's just talk about this openly like we are. This is great, I think, honestly. I've always avoided this in the past because I get really scared, but I'm glad that we're talking about this. Oh shoot, Kayla's going live, by the way. Okay, let me read this out loud. Let's see what it says. Anorexia BMI calculator. Anorexia nervosa, commonly referred to as anorexia, is an eating disorder characterized by low body weight, a distortion of the perception of the body image, and obsessive fear of gaining weight. The disorder primarily affects adolescent females ages 16 to 26 and is far less prevalent in males. Only approximately 10% of those diagnosed with anorexia are male. That's not true. Individuals with anorexia tend to control body weight through methods such as voluntary starvation, excessive exercise, or other weight control measures, including the use of diet pills or diuretics. So this is claiming that it does have to be a certain BMI. But again, like the BMI thing is bull. It is, because there's no comparison. If you're 5'7" and you weigh 90 pounds and you're dying of cancer in a bed and you're malnourished and you're about to die and you barely have anything with you, or if you're 5'7" and you're a healthy person and you eat healthy and you exercise, but you just can't get bigger than that because that's your natural weight and that's a healthy thing for you. How is that possibly the same on a BMI scale? Both would be considered anorexic in that point. But this one is not anorexic. Either they're naturally thin or they're healthy and they exercise, they take care of their bodies, and that's just their body and that's just how it turns out when they're healthy. And then there are people who are either dying or who are sick and starve themselves. Like, how can a 5'7", 90-pound woman be considered the same thing when that's a different situation? Like, I'm just giving up on the whole BMI chart, you know? The first sentence, low BMI is a key of, I know that it says that, and I see what you're saying. But do you believe that, Taylor? It's okay if you do, I'm just curious. Do you know what I mean, Taylor? Like, do you believe that that's, I don't know. The first sentence, low BMI is a key part specifically for anorexia. BMI is not wholly BS. It is useful for something since there is no universally applicable medical measurement. It's an indicator, not perfect. Where's the rest of your comment? I don't know where it is. Okay, let me read the rest of this and let me finish reading this BMI page thing. So it says excessive exercise or other weight control measures, including the use of diet pills or diuretics. There is no single test that can be used to diagnose anorexia, and it is often present in conjunction with other mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and OCD, physical exams, mental health assessments, blood tests, as well as standardized indexes like the body mass index, BMI, are typically used to diagnose anorexia nervosa. And I get that. I get that they're saying that, and that's true to doctors and books. But it's like, again, so I guess it's not all the BMI, but I get that I get what you're saying now. Like, I see what you're saying, Taylor, that they do, if they think someone's anorexic, and then they can look at their BMI and decide from there. But it's not fair to like just assume that anybody with a really low BMI is anorexic. Do you know what I mean? And it's also not fair to assume that someone with a high BMI is not anorexic. I think we've gone off track from my earlier comments. My point was merely that you're purely self-diagnosing, and it makes it seem like it's okay to take that label as their own when it doesn't apply. Okay. Well, I guess we can just agree to disagree, and that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything, right? But I get what you're saying. I get your frustration, but just know that I would never mean to like set an example of like diagnosing yourself with something that you don't have. Like, I just know that I've had this my whole life, and I have been diagnosed with other things, and I have been told that they think I have it, but that they're not a doctor and they're not allowed to tell me. And I'm talking about therapists that have told me this, that aren't allowed to diagnose me. Like, not psychiatrists, but psychologists. And then also it's like, everyone is talking about atypical. Okay. What is atypical anorexia?
Okay, I found this on the web for what is atypical anorexia.
If you have struggled with an eating disorder and live in a large body, you have likely heard some version of this. Perhaps you bravely disclose your restrictive eating, blah, blah, blah. Get to the point. A research study by Sawyer, blah, blah, blah. Atypical anorexia and compared to them without losing, blah, 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 blah. See, even this, though, even if it's like results of this study, is atypical anorexia overweight anorexic? Maybe I'm just saying it wrong then. Maybe I'm just late. Maybe I'm giving the wrong name. But I think it means the exact same thing. Like, we're all talking about the exact same thing here, right? Yeah. So I need to word it better then. Should I go change the title? I can change it if it's going to make people that. I'm not kidding, because I don't want to like cause any more pain for people. Like, I never mean to do that. So I totally could go change it, but it's like atypical anorexia is overweight anorexic. Yeah. I don't know. That's what. So basically, it's true, but I'm giving the wrong name. Don't feel ignored, Ella. There's 81 people here. I'm really sorry, and we're having a deep conversation, and I'm not seeing most of the comments, so don't feel offended. I think to be more clear, say you have EDNOS or OSFED, or atypical now, which means the same thing. So because I'm not using like the technical term. Thanks, Potato Flakes. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm glad we talked about this, but we're clearly not going to agree, and that's okay because of the presence of the word anorexia. But what's wrong with us claiming the presence of anorexia just because we're overweight? That's not right. Like, I cannot agree with you on that. I can't agree when you say things like that, or when you say that we're taking significance away from your disease, or anyone who is actually anorexic, that we're taking away the significance of that. That's not true, because we are starving ourselves. It's the same thing. And some people starve down to 140 like I did. Some people starve down to 70 pounds. Some people start at 400 and starve down to 250. Like, why am I so confrontational lately? I'm so sorry. I hope I'm not coming off as like mean. I'm just feeling brave enough to talk about this. So thank you, Taylor, for bringing this up, and that we can talk about this. And I guess what I'll say, I get what you're saying, and you're totally right when it comes to the books and the doctors and all that. But I honestly have never claimed to say that I'm diagnosing people with this, and if I've self-diagnosed myself, that's okay. I've diagnosed myself with the right thing. It's just not called the right thing for you. I'm so confused, Taylor. But it is. I'm afraid you don't get it. I do get what you mean, and I would never disvalidate your struggles. What is it that I'm not getting? No, they're not bothering me at all. No. Don't get mad. No. We're just having an open conversation. I'm just not good at being confrontational, so sometimes I come off as too. Is it the fact that, like, because obviously, okay, here's what I think. Maybe, Taylor, you're thinking maybe part of it is that the anorexics that are 80, 70 pounds, whatever, and are literally at death's door and about to die, because not only are they anorexic like we are at a different weight, but they have no more weight to lose, and that's going to kill them. And that's definitely a different type of serious than what we have. And maybe that's what you mean. I don't know. But it's like, even for us as overweight, I've been told that my body has aged twice as much. I live in a 66-year-old body right now. And I just meant if you were to rename, use OSFED as opposed to anorexic, because That's more correct and isn't misleading. But atypical anorexic has anorexic in it. Would you agree that atypical, do you agree with what the books say about atypical anorexia? Because that's what it is. I just called it overweight anorexia. That's what I called it, me, but I'm not a doctor. Atypical anorexia isn't a real label. It's more of a social label. I'm getting texts from everybody. Atypical anorexia nervosa is a subtype eating disorder under the category OSFED. Okay, so should I just say OSFED and take anorexia out because anorexia takes away other people's value and takes away their... Well, I can't agree with that. I can't, because I know what it's like to starve myself and being extremely overweight and having doctors tell me that I'm fine and that nothing's wrong, which basically tells us you need to starve yourself down to 80 pounds to be taken seriously. Yes, but also I don't think you've talked much about EDNOS, so it could give more coverage for it also. It could, but that's not what I talked about. I'm not a doctor. I've never claimed to come on here and be a doctor. When I put Educating Shanny as my name, I meant both educating, as in I educate people on what I know, and also educating as in other people educate me, and that's been helping me. And so that's why we're having this conversation. But never did I say overweight and anorexic is a technical term, because I know it's not, because I've been told my whole life it's not, but I know that it's real. And now I've learned that it's atypical anorexia, which is the same thing. It's just a different name. We're all starving ourselves. I can't take that away from, I can't take that significance away from what I'm going through or what I went through or what other people are going through. Thank you, Karina. Eating disorder equals eating disorder. Maybe I just need to stop putting labels on myself. Maybe that would help. I don't know. I'm on this kick of like facing my triggers and facing hard things that come at me, and I'm really been trying, but it really hurts, and maybe I'm hurting you too, and so maybe this just can't be fixed, because I think we're both hurting each other with our opinions, and that's okay. That's life, you know. But please try and understand. I would never try and hurt anybody or mislead anybody. I'm here to share my experiences and to bring awareness to the things that I've been through personally.